Okay, I'm on a roll with these Frieren episodes, so let's keep going because I want to know what's what's the deal with that intro and outro and what it's saying about the relationship between Frieren and Fern. Well, like, what's gonna happen to them? What's gonna come between them? What's gonna that all be about? Is what I'm curious to be knowing of. And the only way to be knowing of it is to be watching of it, which is what we are going to do here. Welcome along to a watch along reaction, I suppose you might call this weird format that I'm using here. And it's a little bit weird because if you've not been along to one of these before, why are you starting at episode 18 to start with? But if you are, the way that this works is that you have the anime on your own screen, and the audio and all of the stuff that you need in order to watch an episode of the anime. You've got that on your own screen, and then you've got me also on your screen or on a second screen or something like that. Who the hell knows? And I'm going to play the anime, and you're going to play the anime at the same time, and you can see there's a timer up in the top left corner. Subtitles will appear at the bottom as well to help you synchronize. And what's going to happen is I'm going to say 3, 2, 1, go. And then we're going to go, and then we're both going to play the anime at the same time. Occasionally, something may happen that I feel like I need to yap about. This will happen frequently sometimes, and I'll say 3, 2, 1, pause. And then the anime will appear on my screen here. Look, you can see what I'm looking at. It's in full color and everything. And I will do my yapping. I'll scroll back and forth. I'll go, oh, animation thing here happen. Oh, that's cool. Thematic consistency of character interaction with other stuff or whatever. And eventually I'm going to be done yapping. And then I'm going to go back to exactly where we paused. And then I'm going to say 3, 2, 1, go. And then you're going to press play at the same time, and we're going to stay in sync in that way, so that, like, you watch the anime alongside me and I do my commentary. Does that make sense? I don't know if it makes sense. I've done it 100,000 times, and I still think my explanation is terrible. But there's really not much that can be done about that now, is there? So, reset the counter back to 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. However many zeros you've got, reset it back to all of them. And let's watch episode 18 of this fucking thing. 3, 2, 1, go. It is lovely animation on that little butterfly on the flower. Butterflies are one of those kinds of creatures where we kind of get dazzled by how pretty the wings are, and we sort of don't really pay attention to how weird and horrifying they look, like on their head and face and body. So who are these other characters, then? We got shadowy figures in the background. We got 2 elves standing side by side on, like, a cliff. Which, again, makes me feel like, hang on, are we doing a thing of, like, that smug elf is, like, Frieren's childhood friend or sister or something like that? Like, do they have some kind of connection? Is that what it is? A bunch of characters with, like, capital D designs are showing off in this intro. And I'm curious to meet them. The staffs holding hands on the bed is still very adorable to me. Voice erst. I won't gush about the backgrounds. I won't do it. Bet you're wrong about that, Fern. Einsam, the lonely. My. Huh. Okay, 3, 2, 1, pause. So we've talked excessively and extensively about Madhouse and their tendency to do too much, right? Like their tendency to do too much just for the love of the game. And here's an interesting point of comparison, because this episode certainly is not skimping on the fucking backgrounds, I will say. What a classic, it's a walled city. It's like in a fantasy anime. Wow, a city surrounded by like tall walls, almost as though as a signifier that within the city some kind of rigid class system rules, like this boundary that has been placed around the citizenry by the people who are in charge of things and who live up top. And look at the way that the city is designed in a layered way, almost as though to suggest that the people who live up here in the palace at the top of the pyramid rule over all the lesser people. Are we suggesting that there's some kind of class element to the like, is that what we're suggesting? Is that's what's happening? Is that because we have the thing about first class mage certification and like governmental authority in order to allow people to are we doing a thing about authority and like bureaucracy? And oh dear, I couldn't tell from the walled city. I'm making fun, but it's a like this is a trope that's like you see a city in a fantasy anime that's designed like this, and like you kind of go, oh okay. It's like you kind of see what they're going for. Like not every walled city necessarily has this going for it, but when you have a walled city and there's just this plateau layer of like grand palace, obscenely huge, enormous, right? Like you kind of, the scale is not really that clear here, but like if that's a regular church, then that thing is fucking massive, right? And like a lot of anime will use the trope of the walled city with like the hierarchy in the architecture. They'll use that just because, oh well, that's what a fantasy city looks like, right? Like they have the thing of like, well, in the fantasy of all of the fantasies have that city with the walls around it, and it looks cool, so we're putting it in here. That happens frequently. Seasonal isekai is often an offender in that regard. But when a story is sort of careful and considerate about the way that it designs its world in order to imply things about like the nature of it, then like I see a designed city like that, and I see it in conjunction with like an image like this of like this shadowy cabal of like people who have more authority than everyone else because they're above everyone else, and a person sitting on a throne. I bet that's the elf girl. And I kind of go, oh okay, all right, I think I see what we're driving at here. I'm picking up what you're putting down. I can smell what you're smoking on. God, what a fucking gorgeous background, too. Like, fucking, look at the way that, like, the haze, right? Like, the way that the colorist has added, like, this sense of white distance haze over the trees down there to create, like, that sense of depth. They're fully on some Bob Ross right there. God, that's pretty. What were we talking about? Oh, right, animation budget. I was talking about how the backgrounds are good, right? Like, the backgrounds are something that Madhouse simply does not skimp on. But compare and contrast this scene of everyone riding in a carriage together versus the one where they're riding to the little town with Sen that's fallen asleep, and like Fern is falling asleep in the carriage. Notice the difference in how the characters are animated, by which I mean how they're not animated, how there's absolutely nothing happening in terms of like rustling or bumping. Like we get this tiny little bit of jiggle, but like no secondary motion, no secondary reaction to it. This is one of those like, okay, for this particular shot, we're just gonna take it a little bit easy, right? Like this, no need to go too hard on this one. This is TV anime, right? And that's that thing with Madhouse, right? Like the decisions, and that's a production thing. Every anime has to make some decisions about where does it put its money, where does it put its effort. And here, clearly, they are dialing things down a little bit, presumably in order to save up, like, make space somewhere else in the production pipeline for something more elaborate. But this might be an episode that's a little bit more on the down low with the animation quality in order to save up juice for something to happen later. I guess we'll see. Anyway, we are back exactly where we were. 3, 2, 1, go. See, now it's there. Now the secondary motion is there. Why are we lingering on her boobs for that? Oh, I bet I know which elf it was. Oh, new character. Hey, there's a friend. Haven't seen you in a while. Economy of motion. Bit of lovely fight animation there. Okay, 3, 2, 1, pause. Let's just this is a what a thing to like that. What a narrative trope to use. Oh, I see. My camera tracking has stopped working. That's why I had that little lapse. Let me just restart that. Boop. What a scene to use. What a scene to use to introduce a character. I do like that there's a bit of a subversion there. I do like there's a little bit of subversion there. Because this is like the classic, okay, we are introducing a new character. How do we establish that they are powerful or whatever? Well, let's just, they sit somewhere and then randomly out of nowhere. And I do mean out of nowhere. Where the fuck were these guys? Randomly out of nowhere, bandits spawn, and then they do something cool in order to establish their power level. Like, by dealing with these guys easily so that we know that they're powerful and cool or whatever. It's a very fantasy 101 trope. Like, it's a very, again, like, seasonal isekai uses it all the time. But, like, lots of anime uses this trope of, like, oh, we need to introduce a character. This character's powerful. They can do cool, so just introduce some random mooks that don't matter that they can just beat on in order to show off how powerful they are. There we go. We have established the stakes and the traits of the character, no problem. It's a efficient solution to the problem of introducing a character. It's not especially creative or interesting, so I was looking at this scene and I was like, really? We're just gonna straight up do one of those scenes? We're just gonna, like, oh, the bandits are like, oh, this girl, she can't possibly be powerful, and they're gonna try and attack her, and then she's gonna blast them to pieces with her magic or whatever. But no, we do a slightly different thing of, like, an old friend shows up. which is interesting. Like okay, that's at least not playing the scene entirely straight. Although, like, oh yeah, he saved her from the sort of vaguely gendered menace of bandits. Is also like a stereotypical, like another stereotypical way of introducing characters in a party, right? It's like, how do these people meet? Well, one of them defended the other from a something something, and from then on they travel together. It's another stereotype thing. I didn't see it coming though, so I'll give it points for that. Just okay, interesting. Anyway, the fight scene. I like his economy of motion a lot. And like you can see, this is one of those, like, you can see, oh, we're turning on the Sakuga thing, because now all of a sudden, now the camera, which had been steady, all of a sudden, oh, handheld camera now because of jiggle drama. Wow. And then we do some impressive animation, and then the camera settles back down to not be handheld anymore. But I do like the way he's animated for these fights, like the sort of martial arts economy of motion that he's using, almost completely disengaged, right? Like, there's no tension in his face or in his bearing. He just kind of does the minimal amount of movement that's necessary to knock these guys the hell to the ground. And then at that point, it's like, yep, that's it. Like, and that's a decent way to introduce like the way that he handles himself in a fight, right? Like, these guys are not a threat, but also I'm not interested in killing them, right? Like, I'm not really interested in hurting them, so I'll give him a warning shot, and then they'll run off, and it'll be fine. I like that. Like, that's a half decent way to introduce a character. Anyway, let's see how this plays out. 3, 2, 1, go. Yeah, you rescued them. I like that. Oh, it's a classic Adventurers Guild receptionist. I know it's not an Adventurers Guild. I like that, the idea of like Well, it ought to be, but you'll run into bureaucracy. But I do like the world building thing of like, we're just repeating it straight up. Okay. Okay, 3, 2, 1, pause. I just wanted to get my point out without feeling like I was interrupting dialogue. I do really like that world building element, right? Like that all of the bureaucracy, all of the worldly authority in this world is vested in the timescale of a human lifespan, right? Like it's all built around these lifespans of very brief humans who have a tendency to squabble amongst themselves and change governments and like, you know, have revolutions and cut the head off all of their kings, at least if they're doing things correctly. And things change and like new systems of government rise and like all of this change is happening all the time. And it, for Frieren, that is just like sort of antithetical to the way that she exists and lives her life, that like every what to her feels like every like 6 months or so, right, in terms of her lifespan, but it's like 30, 40 years, 80 years for a human being. She has to retake certifications and prove the thing over again and get new symbols and new signifiers for new governments and new bureaucracies so that like new groups of people will give her like the official recognition of something that she's just been around and doing for like 1,000 fucking years, right? Like she's been around forever. She's been around since before like most human civilizations existed. She's been doing magic. She knows who she is and what she's about. But all of these flash in the pan little civilizations like bubble up to the surface and then pop right over and over again, such that all of the means that she has to prove her place within history are vanishing. That's the same thing we see with the repeated motif of like the statue of the heroes, right? Of like finding statues of the party that defeated the Demon King and seeing it's completely in disrepair because new generations of humans have come up that have no memory of it and have no relationship to it and thus are forgetting, right? And aren't seeing how any of this is relevant to the way that they live their lives, in part because probably not that much access to education in this medieval tech tree mostly world. And I like that. I like that as a part of the world building, that like even these objects that once upon a time bestowed God knows how much authority on her, right? That once upon a time signified her place, right? And which may have been meaningful to her, like Holy Symbol. It seems to be genuinely ancient. So like maybe she got that from Flamme. Like who knows? Who knows where and when she got it, right? But this might be very meaningful to her and like mean a tremendous thing to her, but because the elves don't have a civilization in the same way, because the elves don't have like these networks of official authority, right? She can't prove it, and like the world will insist on treating her as though she's someone other than who she is. And refuse to recognize her for who she is because the official like computer says no, right? In the same way that like in, not to relate it too much to modern contemporary politics, but like in modern times, it's like there are places in the world where like if you don't have your papers on you to prove exactly who you are, a government can just decide to throw you in prison for being undocumented in that moment, right? Like, and even if you do have your papers on you, if they just decide, yeah, we have decided not to recognize those papers, I mean, there go your human rights. There goes your right to due process, right? And I like operationalizing that as like an element in Frieren is so ancient that like every single time she has tried to fit into these societies, every time she's tried to join up or obtain certification or like integrate with and operate within these bureaucracies, her reward is that from her perspective, it's a blink of an eye passes, and now it's a new group of belligerent human idiots yelling at her to take a certification and prove this and have the paper for that and so on and so forth. And that she can never have peace. She can never just be recognized for who she is. she constantly has to prove herself over and over again, and it's very tedious and annoying. Which, like, that reflects the experience of people who fall outside of the boundaries of the normal, right? Like, who fall outside the boundaries of bureaucracy. Like, a lot of trans people can probably relate on some level to this idea of being constantly asked to prove that you are who you obviously are, because a bit of paperwork doesn't quite say the thing that the bureaucracy wanted to say, and so therefore a state entity feels entitled to treat you as something entirely other than what you are. It's like not in the sense of completely equating or correlating Frieren story to like a trans allegory, but just that this theme is broad. Like, this is a theme that exists very broadly in the real world, and I think it's a really interesting way to bring it into a fantasy narrative, just by the simple convenience of like, yeah, no, she's just so old and she lives her life so slowly that all of this to her is like this constant crackling wildfire of unmanageable chaos that she simply could not possibly be expected to engage with or deal with. That's like just intensely frustrating for someone who lives 1,000 fucking years. Anyway, let's move on. 3, 2, 1, go. Only 2,000 mages, huh? Recognized mages, anyway. Interesting. That sort of implies that mages and magic as a class of people are difficult to maintain and sustain outside of times of, like, warfare. Birthday cake. We do love we do love a montage, don't we? Oh, Frieren raising her daughter. Or, yeah, well, Frieren, them raising each other. They're kind of each other's child, mother, sister. Here's another Spot the anime character. Just like the background characters with all their natural hair colors and like normal clothes, and then how did she get away with murdering a first-class mage? Three, 2, 1, pause. It really is. Oh my god. Just, it really is like, oh yeah, the normies. The, like, these are all apparently mages who are good enough to take the first class exam, but they're also just like, yeah, this is NPC McNobody, and Little Miss doesn't matter to this story. Versus, like, oh yeah, no, guess which one of these is like the relevant character to the story. Guess which one of these is worth caring about. Oh my good god. it's so funny sometimes. Like it's visual tropes, right? Like there are good reasons to do that from a visual communication perspective. This means when you look at a crowd, you're never gonna be wondering, oh, who is the main character? Like it's efficient in terms of like in terms of character design and storytelling. One of the sort of unintentional thematic consequences of character design being done this way, right, is that it sort of reinforces the idea that you can tell who's exceptional by looking at them, right? It's the stand user thing, right? The stand user could be anyone in this room, except it could, like, only one of them is wearing, like, leopard print and tartan and a kilt and and, like, striking a pose like a limbo dancer who's having a seizure. It does reinforce this idea that exceptional people are exceptional by sight, right? Like, you can judge a book by its cover. Because you can, in anime, judge a book by its cover. In this room, we can judge all of the books by their cover, unless this anime is about to do something really interesting and surprise me. Because there are main characters and then there are NPCs, right? Like, there are people who matter, which are the people who wear the cool clothes and have the cool hairstyles and, like, have the, you know, the money and the resources and the anime protagonist genetics in order to look exceptional. And then there's NPCs who don't matter, people whose lives can be thrown away in an instant, and it doesn't really matter. They're just there to serve the narrative, the plot of the exceptional people. It's one of those big, you'll it's one of those big structural critiques of the way that narrative is often handled, especially in Western inspired or neoliberal storytelling, versus like attempts that there have been to create a kind of socialist cinema, right? Like, wherein there isn't one heroic leader or like one person who is like the exceptional individual whose actions shape the narrative, but like which focus on the concept of collective struggle and things like that. But that's maybe a little bit much for watching an anime about an elf girl going to magic school for 5 episodes or however long this is going to last. So let's maybe return back to Earth and see what happens in this exam. 3, 2, 1, go. Oh, good, she's with the serial killer. I mean, what else could possibly have happened anyway? They're sisters, right? Red Oni, blue Oni, huh? I'm already very annoyed with both of those girls. I'm like, clearly on purpose, the anime is trying to make me annoyed with these two, and it's succeeding. Also, what the hell are their costumes? Interesting challenge to put Frieren with, though. If you understand, then change it. So the name means quiet or silent. That's gonna fucking kill it. Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, I like this. Okay, so these are Super Saiyan birds. Okay, I'm on board with this now. This is fun. Well, that's okay. Ooh. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Pause. Let's... So some character design notes also I have on those two girls, but... That's a pretty good frame. Like with the tail slashing down. And again, like we see the Sakuga camera activating, right? Which is the camera which has been very still. All of a sudden now, we're getting movement, we're getting camera shake, we're getting like implied rotation, we're getting all kinds of activity to match the suddenness of the scene. Real lucky she is that that bird didn't just kill her immediately once it had her. Her last thought is of the other girl. Aww. This too is Yuri. Mostly I just wanted to see. Ooh, that's good. That's some lovely... Some fantastic lighting effects. Yeah, like, look at the scribbled... Like, the scribble of the lines around... The way they're making them jagged. And, like the moment before it activates, right? Like, before the circle is, like, generate, they expand. Then the moment before they clamp down, we get this little moment of they vanish completely, and then... Gadoosh, and that little... Right? You see how that little moment of flash, when they vanish, helps create the snap of them, like, grabbing onto this creature like that. Like, that little one frame of vanishing is the thing that really, like, gives you that sense of like a trap snapping shut. That's very cool. Anyway, character design. It's a bit interesting with the two of them, in the sense that her blue girl, whose name I've instantly forgotten out of my brain, blue girl is dressed sort of, I wouldn't say traditionally, because that's a short skirt with some knee socks under there, which sort of marks it out as a very modern style of fashion ultimately, but she's dressed like with what you would call a kind of performative modesty a little bit, right? Like a relatively elaborate costume, but very covering and sort of very... Because of the bright blue color, it's not really plain, but sort of evoking the aesthetics of plainness a little bit. Versus red-haired girl, whose name also I am not bothering to remember just yet, is dressed fully modern, right? Like, just fully, like... She looks like she wandered in from a complete... They both kind of look like they wandered in from a completely different anime, to be honest. But her especially, she looks like she wandered in from some, like, second-rate Atelier series, knockoff, bargain bin PS2 JRPG from the late 2000s, mid 2010s. Like with the short little go-go, like with the short little pants and like the crop top with the cutesy thing on the thing and like the pigtails on the side and like the boots. It's an odd character design for Frieren as a series. They're both odd character designs for Frieren as a series. That's not to say they're bad, necessarily. Like, part of the point here seems to be, at least, like compare and contrast the two of them to Fern, right? Part of the point of it seems to be confronting Frieren with a more modern reality, right? That seems to be part of the point of what we're doing here, is that Frieren is this relic of a deep and ancient past, but these are, like, these are products of the modern world that is, for one thing, no longer under the threat of the Demon King. And for another thing, which is like changing rapidly and modernizing in ways that Frieren can't keep up with. So I think the contrast in their design aesthetics is very much intentional in that sense, that she looks way the fuck too modern. Right? And that she looks way the fuck too much like she gets her fashion inspiration from Instagram. To really sort of mingle with what Frieren has got going on, or indeed what Frieren's party has got going on. Like Stark, or Stark, I should probably pronounce it properly, has that in his character design as well a little bit. Like a little bit of that modern sensibility versus the sort of Dragon Quest, sort of old school RPG look of Frieren, Himmel, Haita, and Eisen. They're all dressed as like old school RPG characters, right? Like from some Dragon Quest game from like the late 1980s, early 1990s, right? Like that's sort of what they're all dressed like in that particular kind of high fantasy anime aesthetic. These characters are dressed much more like they are straight out of like I said, like a sort of equivalent PS2 RPG from like the from like the mid to like the late 2000s or whatever. That seems to be where their aesthetic is drawn from. And it's part of what makes them annoying to me because they are so tonally like the two of them with their fighting and like their catty sort of like we're two girls but we're so different but we're fighting all the time. Like that sort of very, that's a very different energy to that presentation versus the sort of sedate, quiet, introspective, very heavily emotion-driven vibe of the show so far. They clash really badly with everything the anime has been so far. I think it may be intentional. I'm not here to shit on it. I'm just saying it's okay. Like, they are annoying me a lot because they are interrupting the energy I like from Frieren. They're annoying me a lot because they don't take anything that's happening even a little bit fucking seriously, the two of them, in the way that perhaps they should, and that's irresponsible. And in that way, the show has put me in Frieren's position, right? Like, they're clearly being very annoying on purpose and very out of place on purpose, so that I, old man that I am, put myself in Frieren's place and go, God, these fucking kids. These fucking kids with their stupid fashion and their dumb hair, and they don't take anything seriously enough, and they're not responsible, and they have like they no one says hi anymore, and they don't say sir, and like makes me a fucking boomer, right? Like the character design is fully manipulating me into a boomer mindset so that I identify with Frieren here, and it's again interesting, like an interesting set of moves to make. Anyway, 3, 2, 1, go. Lavina, that's her name. This too is Yuri. Nice little match fade. They're so annoying. Brackets positive. Honestly, just kick her off the cliff. Yay! Thank you. Cast the flying spell, bitch. Well, it worked. Are they both just gonna get killed in horrible ways? Is that why they're here? Right, by using a barrier. Okay, that makes sense. I do. The show is definitely teasing, like, a scene like that could be a death flag, right? Like, we're establishing already that this girl is liable to get her ass killed because she's not paying attention at a critical moment, right? And I forgot her name again already. But the other one, Levine, once she is distracted by this one getting hurt, she's probably the next one to go down. And I depending on how brutal Frieren, like, because again, I'm seeing this through the lens of, like, the show is intentionally making me antipathetic towards the two of them. Like, it's intentionally making both of them quite annoying to me. So that, right, so that it can set up for some kind of, like, emotional punishment for that later. Like, so that it can set up for, yeah, maybe they're annoying, but they're just kids, man. They don't deserve to die like this. So it can set up for, like, an emotional gut punch with them later. That's me thinking just in terms of, like, narrative structure and things like that. That you set up the death flag, you establish, like, this is a way that this girl is definitely probably gonna die, because that's a habit that she's not really good at kicking. She's not really good at paying attention. She's not really good at that. She has that vulnerability. We have established a vulnerability. Then we can pay it off by either taking advantage of it later, right? Like, that's the other way it can go, of course, is that we can pay this off by either taking advantage of this established weakness later, or we can pay it off by showing explicitly that through her experiences, she has learned to overcome this weakness, right? Like, we have a scene later where, once again, something's attacking her out of the sky or whatever, but this time she parries it effortless because she has learned. Because through cooperating with Frieren, whatever they're going to be doing in the next episode, like, she's learning to address some of her weaknesses because she finally has a teacher in Frieren who will engage her in a way that's more useful to her than whatever's been done to her so far. There's also the implication, of course, in their little flashback backstory, right? This is what happens when you grow up babied by a kind mommy and daddy, which sort of, like, what kind of upbringing did you have? Little Miss sort of half dresses like a nun girl with the prim and proper princess haircut. What kind of upbringing did you have? What's your relationship with your parents? I bet it's great. I bet this is indicating that she, like, the fact that she's looking down on someone else who had, like, a good relationship with their parents is like, this is why you're weak. That's probably an indication that she has a very healthy relationship with her family, right? Yeah, usually, like, when people disdain the concept of being nice to children, that's usually because they had great childhoods and were not subjected to any kind of physical or emotional violence at all. So I imagine that would be the devastating backstory of this girl, is, like, just, she's such a perfectionist and she's so intent on what she's doing because, right, like, because she's had the most horrendously horrific relationship with her own family, which is why she's fixating on red-haired girl whose name I'm still not bothering to remember. It's not that I'm not bothering, it's that I have ADHD and my brain just does not retain that kind of information on a dime. Like, that's why she fixates on this little baby bird, like, this kind little girl who kind of needs someone to kind of kick her ass and get her in gear a little bit. Fixates on, like, protecting her, but also is in conflict with her constantly because it's that projection of, like, her own unfulfilled needs and desires, right? trying to pass on the lessons that she believes makes her strong, while also sort of resenting and envying that this girl did not grow up being like constantly pressured or made miserable by whatever thing. And like that's just me sort of building conjecture from a few breadcrumbs here. Don't know if any of it is going to turn out right, but that's the other thing about their fashion, right? That this girl is dressed like a Genki girl, right? Like she's cheerful, like with lots of skin on display and like big loose sort of bright clothing and like bright colors and like red hair, which is like passion and energy and all that. And this girl is all like blue, dour, dark, much more covered up, like all of this crisscrossing, like a lot more layers. Not exactly, again, compare her outfit to Fern's in terms of actual plainness. Like there's some costuming here rather than practical clothing. But much more covered up, much more severe, much more plain, and blue, of course. And her hair is like this like dull color of gray, and like long and immaculately maintained versus the sort of messy double ponytail arrangement we've got going on over here. It's like, yeah, my guess would be, and I hope I am not right, but my guess would be that the thing that's about to happen is that serial killer mage girl might just off both of them to get rid of some of the competition after Frieren carries these two through some of the tests or something like that. Would be my guess. That's just like not a hard prediction. Just like, yeah, that seems like a thing that could conceivably happen given the death flags we're planting here, or might be planting here rather. And setting up with like the backstory of like, oh, okay, these two actually have kind of a close relationship to one another, and it's like they're actually in a sort of slightly fucked up, toxic way supportive of one another, and clearly like that's the other thing we see in this scene, right? Is like everyone else has already flown off, she's too scared to go, and she's staying behind, right? Like she's staying behind, will not leave until this little idiot is also going off. Like, so she's expresses so much disdain, she's mean to her, she's like constantly like bonking her over her head with her inadequacies and all of that, but also she would never leave her behind for anything, right? Like she would never do it because there's an attachment there. That feels to me like it's setting up for tragedy. That's just what it feels like. That just feels like, yeah, we're setting this up, like introduce them as really annoying, make them likable, and then the moment when you're starting to turn around, like, oh, maybe these kids aren't so bad after all, make something horrible happen to them for the emotional gut punch of it. That's like a basic way that you would emotionally manipulate that out of the audience. I don't know that that's what the show is doing. Frieren is not always that brutal about it, right? But it's certainly what I would expect from a darker fantasy story than Frieren, where Frieren is more sort of melancholic than necessarily edgy. But I mean, we're doing a magic school arc. This is essentially Frieren, it feels like, doing a tournament arc. By sort of like setting Frieren into this like competitive testing environment thing with a bunch of people who are willing probably to do quite nasty things in order to get ahead. That kind of feels like what we're doing here. And again, also having Frieren clash with authority, right? Like, and this is a challenge that she can't overcome simply by being the best mage on the whole fucking planet. Like, she could, like, dismantle Aura or kill that old sealed demon mage guy, right? She kind of can't do that here because, first of all, she can't just kill people. And second of all, it doesn't matter how good she is. What she needs is for the authority and power to recognize her as good, right? Which is a different set of needs. That means she has to be on a certain level submissive to authority, which is an interesting position to put Frieren in. Because our girl is, I wouldn't call her an anarchist, but she's not exactly Miss I respect state power and worldly authorities, right? She's like, no, actually, I've been alive since before your great grandfather was cum stain in your grandfather in his father's underwear, right? So what do I give a shit of whether you recognize me as a great mage? Like, that's why Frieren doesn't keep up with certifications. Like, she doesn't care about this until it becomes like absolutely necessary for her to do so, right? she's not gonna give a shit about certification until it's like, okay, I guess I need it now because of, oh my fucking god, right? And then she will sort of debase herself to be subject to someone else's authority. There is an anti-authoritarian streak to Frieren that I quite like. Something I like about her character, which is not as obvious as One Piece, right? But there is a little bit of that thing of worldly authorities should not just get to hold power because they say so. They should get to actually they need to do actually useful things in order to earn the respect of people who have to live under them. But anyway, that's me going off on a tangent that's way outside the scope of what this episode. I just wanted to talk about how their character designs are kind of weird and annoying. And I think they may be going to die, but I hope they're not. That would suck. Anyway, membership on channel, early access to episodes, $1 a month if you want to. You don't have to. I have a Patreon, different rewards over there. There's a coffee. I have a merchandise store, links to stuff in the description, like, comment, subscribe, blah, blah, blah. YouTube, goodbye.